Hello, hello, and welcome to another Sacred Games Daily. I am Brian, and this is Joe, and we're here on March 18th, Monday, to let you in on the latest gaming news. We got a couple big stories today, some interesting stuff, mostly PlayStation oriented. Joe, how was your Monday this week?
It's good. It's good. Just got back from work and gonna bash this out. I'm excited for this episode. I mean, with what three weeks in now to this potentially. Something
Yeah,
like that? Yeah. I'd say two and a half.
Some consistency.
Yeah, we're doing. It's good. It's real good.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. This is episode 6, and hitting the ground running here at the beginning of the week. Yeah. So what are you going to play next, Joe? You're going to play Jedi Survivor? Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah, I just finished up Final Fantasy VII Intermission. And the further I get away from not OG, from Final Fantasy VII Remake and Intermission, the less inclined I am to keep this sort of train rolling through the stations. I kind of want to like maybe have a little break and then go to OG after, just to keep it fresh and not to burn out. So we're going to do that. And I'm excited for Survivor because that shouldn't be too long of a game. So
yeah, Survivor was really good. I think it's funny because you're talking about like not getting burnout and switching over to something different. I saw on a forum yesterday someone saying, how do you avoid burnout when trying to play all the Final Fantasy games in a row? Mm-hmm. Talking about Final Fantasy 1
all of them,
through 16 and all that. And the first reply was basically like what I would say is it's like, you don't.
Yeah.
These games were not meant to be binged.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about several thousand hours.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Okay, but we'll get into the stories here. First story is PlayStation 5 Pro leaked specs appear online. This comes from Eurogamer. Actually, all three of our stories today come from Eurogamer. We've all pretty much known that a PlayStation 5 Pro is coming for a while. I think the rumor is it's going to be coming later this year. Microsoft has said that their Series S and Series X, that is their regular model and Pro. They don't plan to release a Pro. Now, that doesn't mean they won't release a redesign. We've seen leaked redesign of a digital-only spherical-shaped Xbox console. So we will probably get a new Xbox, a variation. But as far as a Pro model where the specs are actually better, it looks to be only Sony this time, as, of course, Nintendo will be releasing the Switch 2 at some point, probably next year, which will be a full new console. But yeah, so the specs are leaked here. Let's kind of talk through this article a little bit here. It says, Eurogamer understands these specifications, first reported on YouTube by Moore's Law is Dead, that's the channel name, to be legitimate and sourced from Sony's own internal developer network to which numerous partners have access to. The specs have since been reported on and also corroborated by Insider Gaming and IGN. As you'd expect, the specs show a boost to the PS5 Pro's system memory and GPU. The machine's CPU remains identical to the base PS5, but now boasts a high CPU frequency mode, which is said to add a 10% speed increase, albeit with a slight 1% reduction to GPU performance. As with the recent updated PS5 Slim model, the Pro will also feature support for detachable disk drive and offer 1 terabyte of onboard SSD storage. I know these specs, since these specs don't mean anything to me and I'm the one reading these off, I would think they probably don't mean much to all of you, but I'll briefly touch on them. Memory, 576 gigabytes a second, up 28% from 448 gigabytes on the standard PlayStation 5. CPU, 3.85 gigahertz, up 10% using high CPU frequency mode. And the GPU is 33.5 teraflops. It should be noted that a direct comparison between PS5 and PS5 Pro isn't possible. The PS5 had 10.28 teraflops, though using a different form of AMD architecture. The estimated increase here is around 45%. Sony has yet to announce the PS5 Pro, though the hardware is now widely expected. Last month, CNBC report stated that there was now broad consensus in the game industry that Sony is indeed preparing the launch of a PS5 Pro in the second half of 2024. I mean, we see a 10% increase with the high CPU frequency mode. The memory is up 28%. I kind of look to the PS4 and the PS4 Pro to get an idea for what we're looking at here. I know, see, it's a little different for me, and I wonder where you're at, Joe. When the PS4 Pro came out, it was pretty simple. It's like, yeah, I'm going to upgrade. I'm single with disposable income.
Yeah.
And it's better. So I want it. And that's pretty much when we started to see like performance and graphics modes in games. And usually you had more options on the PS4 Pro. And the crazy thing is the PS5 just feels so new to me still, but it has been out for almost 4 years. So this is the time for a Pro. It also begs the question, when are we going to get like the next gen consoles? I'm not ready for that at all, but I would think it's possible that as soon as 2 years from now, we could maybe start to hear murmurings of PS6 and whatever the next Xbox is called.
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you, Joe, is threefold. What do you think of these specs? Are you interested in buying one? And do you think we see any cool usages with games going forward because of this, or is it not really noticeable?
For me, the specs are interesting because they're taking a page out of NVIDIA's DLSS book and AMD's FSR tech as well, which is drastically inferior to the prior. But yeah, I'm excited for it because, I mean, as we all know with DLSS stuff, it's a big deal for like, I mean, DLSS is only on supported cards, but FSR is literally backwards compatible to all the prior cards and stuff, which is one advantage over AMD that they offer. But yeah, it's a fantastic thing. It's one of the things that basically propelled NVIDIA to one of the highest on the the technological like stock front essentially, because not only have they got the DLSS and the card market cap, but they've also got the AI infrastructure going on now, which is like firing them off into the stratosphere really comparatively to like AMD and stuff like that. So you'll start to see that probably with PlayStation, their stocks rise if this is successful. But the specs are good. The specs are good. I mean, like the comparatively to Xbox Series X, how it touted being the most powerful console on the in the industry at the time is going to be no longer if they don't make a competition essentially. But with them potentially going more third party and becoming less sort of fixated on the platform that they have, I don't really see them maybe even making one potentially. I don't know. Something that can compete, because like you said, it's becoming more digital, the focus, rather than the power and the teraflops going ahead, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And the second question was, am I going to buy one? Did you say?
Yeah. You plan on buying one of these?
The second question, no. I never bought a PS4 Pro. It doesn't really interest me that much because, I mean, with PS5, with Sony, the new president basically saying like, oh yeah, well, PS5 era is nearly over already. We're kind of moving on as an industry in many ways. It doesn't really fill me with much confidence to like kind of invest in a sort of like mid-gen upgrade kind of thing, or a late-gen upgrade per se. And then is it going to affect like games going forward? I don't think so. I think you're just going to get higher frame rates, you're going to get higher graphical fidelity, and that's about it, which is fantastic. And the fact that they're using this like AI upscaling and stuff like that, and this new tech is incredible. But yeah,
would you say Microsoft's made a good bet then by putting out two versions of their console at launch and not preparing a Pro? Do you think that was wise then? Kind of seems like you are saying that by what you've said on how important it'll be.
I don't know necessarily if it's wise. It's hard because, I mean, the PS4 Pro sold pretty bloody well. Yeah. So you could see the same thing happen where it's just another part of the snowball rolling down the hill for Sony in this case. I just don't think I'm not really representative of kind of the sort of casual console purchaser market, because I'm kind of like, oh, I've got my thing, I can kind of deal with what I've got, and that's me happy. I think Xbox is doing smart things for Xbox's own sake, regardless of what it means for the greater industry.
Yeah, I do kind of fall into who they're selling to, because the truth is,
well, you bought the Portal, right, recently?
What's that?
You bought the Portal recently?
We have the PlayStation Portal, and that's something I would really like to talk about more at a further date.
Yeah.
But I would love to buy a PS5 Pro at launch. It's just I probably won't, because I don't think I'll have the money. I mean, it's one of those things where like as a couple, as a married person, we could have the money for it, but we wouldn't come to an agreement that this is wise to purchase.
Yeah, it's not a justified purchase given what you already have.
So I would have to come up with the money largely on my own, separate from our normal finances, because And I'm not even upset about that. I don't think there's any reason to convince my wife we need a PS5 Pro at launch or ever potentially. But I would like to have one if it was that simple as getting one. Another thing to think about is I really do think the Switch 2 is going to release within 4 months after this, probably early next year, which I'd rather have a Switch 2.
Dude, so they better get that going. Like, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's taken forever, man. Like that. Yeah, the Switch was outdated the day it launched, and now it's going to be going on 7-8 years. It's insane.
Yeah.
Crazy. But I'd be interested in this. I think it'll be cool. I do agree with you that it's probably not going to do a lot for this generation, especially with Xbox not rising to meet it and the Switch Switch 2 coming in way underneath it. Anyways, it would be nice to see, like, I know like you haven't played Final Fantasy 16, but that game's performance mode was pretty ass. It just
compared to the
choppy and all over the place. If playing Final Fantasy 16 on a Pro immediately makes it solid 60 without any dips, it's like, oh, well, that's already a pretty cool benefit of it. And if a lot of games do that, then that would be exciting. But
one thing I will say is it's kind of in line with them now dropping the cross-platform, well, not cross-platform, but like cross-generational titles that they were bringing, so, with God of War Ragnarok coming to PS4 and PS5 together and stuff like that, it's good that now that they've moved past that era, this is coming out now, because I feel like if the Pro model came out when that was happening, it would have been like, what's the point?
Mixed marketing.
Sure. So I think this is the right time, if there is any time for it to come out.
It's kind of sad, though, and I hate that, like, I really don't enjoy... I would say 9 times out of 10, I don't enjoy shitting on Xbox. Every now and then I do when it's like a Redfall moment or something like that, but I don't really enjoy it. But it does kind of suck that it seems like Microsoft's going to once again kind of retroactively be lying, because they said they would never again be beaten for console performance. They would always be number one. And I think since they've said that, they clearly don't care as much about the console as they did when they said that. So I really doubt this is going to be, they're going to match this. Like, my guess is the PS5 Pro will be the most powerful console until the next generation, which Xbox might beat them there, the PS6. But I think PS5 Pro is going to be the place to go. And like you said, kind of, I don't know that people are going to rush out and buy the Pro in like tens of millions, but there is going to be a sentiment of the PS5 is already the preferred console that's selling well and people want. It's going to be the only one that's got a Pro model. Unless Microsoft can manage to sell the cylinder digital console in a way that makes consumers think that it's the competitor to the Pro. That would be smart if they could do that. You and me would never fall for that, or most of our listeners. But like,
new shiny.
If somebody could go in the store and be like, oh, new Series X, all digital, spherical design, $400, and Pro 550, 600, it'd be like, ooh, I'm going with that new Xbox. It's a lot cheaper, but I don't know. Interesting to think about. That's some good news about Sony hardware. So let's go over to some bad news. And I think this is a story that I feel like, okay, this is not me being some clairvoyant genius or anything. This is about the PlayStation VR 2. I felt like since the very first PlayStation VR, from the moment that launched all the way till now, I have always felt like, why are they putting their money into this? Who is this market for? Does it make sense to invest so much in this? I felt that way for the VR 1, and I felt even more that way for the VR 2, because I'm like, okay, VR 2 is going to cost more. It's getting people to move from the first VR platform to the second platform. I've never really understood why Sony have put their chips in this basket. Microsoft's certainly not doing it. Nintendo's certainly not doing it, unless you count Nintendo Labdo, the cardboard thing, which I don't.
You can't. No.
So it's really just been kind of like a PC enthusiast, expensive niche, and it's had its place there. I haven't understood why Sony has done this. And we've seen now PSVR 2 has been out for over a year. There's been some games that have come out on it, mostly third party. Sony really hasn't rised to meet their own hardware with compelling software. And it just kind of feels like, why was the money invested in this? For those of you that don't know, if you go out and buy a PS5 for $500 and you want VR 2, you got to spend another $500 separately. So you're talking about $1,000 purchase without a game. It's just insane. And
not me.
Anyways, so this report is PlayStation VR 2 production paused as stock piles up. Production of the PlayStation VR 2 headset has been halted, a new report claims, while Sony struggles to shift a growing pile of unsold units. Bloomberg states that PSVR 2 sales have continued to slow down while stock of the unit begins to mount up. Sony has now reportedly manufactured over 2 million units of its PS5 VR headset, though the company has not disclosed sales figures since May 2023. Bloomberg has repeatedly reported PSVR 2's performance and wrote in a January 2023 that Sony had slashed its planned shipments of the headset following disappointing pre-order numbers. In response, Sony denied it had cut PSVR 2 production and said it had seen enthusiasm from fans for the device. I remember that article like it was yesterday, where they cut the amount they were putting out because disappointing pre-orders. So it says they've manufactured over 2 million units, and the article is talking about how production is paused as stock piles up. How much would you wager? How many units of PSVR 2 would you wager have sold, Joe? Because I'm thinking they have not crested 1 million, is my guess.
I think that's bang on.
Still under 1 million?
Yeah, 100%.
So we're talking, I know it's only been out for a year, and generally when you launch a platform, you're thinking several years.
Yep.
So now they're probably looking at it and going, we haven't sold half of the units we already have created. We don't want to invest money in this anymore. We don't want to make games for it anymore. Maybe we should stop making them and see how long the remaining million plus coast and sell. And I know we heard, I don't think we ever said that on this show, but we heard a few weeks ago, about a month ago maybe, that Sony was looking to make the PSVR 2 work on PCs so that people could purchase these and use them on their PCs, which I think is them trying to figure out a way to pivot out of this and get rid of these units and find a use for them, but not support them any longer with software, which they really haven't supported with software anyways.
Nope.
So I don't know what the thinking was here, especially after PSVR 1 numbers. I don't know what the numbers were on PSVR 1, but it was never reported that it was a giant success. It may have been profitable. People may have enjoyed it, but I don't know where the logic was in trying to sell people on an additional device that costs as much as the console with limited support. Yep. I think the writing was on the wall for this, and I think Sony and Nintendo Microsoft and Nintendo were very smart for not trying to get into this market and match them. This just seems like a loss for Sony. Did you find anything, Joe? I can tell you're looking here.
No, I'm just doing a little background research and stuff, but it's it's a shame.
One thing I appreciate about Sony is that they are willing to make these premium products and peripherals and extra things for their console, like the PlayStation Portal that you mentioned already, which is like a device to play your games remotely. You have the PlayStation like earbuds that have the ability to have you play a podcast and hear game music at the same time. They have really high quality ear muffs. You can buy just lots of different additional things you can buy for your PlayStation. It gives a very premium experience. It feels kind of like Apple. We've talked about Sony being like the Apple of gaming. Yep. So I appreciate that they do this, but I just don't know who was asking for this, and I feel like this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. And luckily, I don't think it's going to hurt them too bad. I think they'll do sales and make deals, and they'll get rid of these things, and they'll just quietly not address it anymore. Yep. They're doing so well with console and game sales. I don't think it's going to matter, but I don't know, Joe. What do you think about this? What do you have to add to it? Am I missing something?
As someone who spent a lot of time on PC, like I can speak firsthand. I mean, I have the original Oculus Rift that like literally down there, but that I haven't used for ages because I get sick of the wires. It feels like Predator with all the wires down your back. It's so cumbersome. But I've had firsthand experience with PC VR gaming for a long time now, and I'm always kind of got my eye on it because I do have a somewhat interest in VR. It's really cool, it's really immersive and stuff, but that sort of sub-platform in general, not just PSVR, but VR in general, thrives on having a very open market of third-party studios that are able to just go ham and make a crap ton of video games that are moddable, that are customizable, that are modular. Beat Saber is a prime example, right? It's one of the main games that I used to play on Oculus. It was always better on PC because you could mod the shit out of it, and it wasn't like you were confined to DLC packs and stuff like that, and it felt really, really good. I just think what I think PSVR's done, especially with the second one as opposed to the first one, is the first one was more kind of something that Shuei Yoshida, the guy who was like sort of in the PS4 generation, like obviously head of indies and stuff like that, he was a big fan of it, and you could tell like that whole thing with the creator was kind of like a sort of AA indie novel sub-platform that wasn't as much as the main console, of course, and they just was like, let's do something like this. Let's have this side of PlayStation that allows us to bring in more people, maybe potentially PC gamers that want to, VR game on PlayStation. And then also let's have our own sort of PlayStation VR title exclusive stuff. The problem is now that we're in the PS5 generation, it's kind of still got that side of it, but the fact that your sub-platform costs as much as your main platform is absolutely unfathomable to me from a business perspective, despite, it probably being a logical cost in terms of the production and the R&D that it took to make it. But overall, like, there's not the lineup of games, there's not the support for it, it's not PlayStation's main focus, so you can't expect people to buy into it at the same price, and it's as simple as that. And it's just a shame, because, like, there are some really, really solid titles on there, like the Horizon game that came out and stuff like that. It's a shame, but the problem is you need that open market. I genuinely feel that way. I mean, PC VR is glowing right now, and it always has done. You've got your physics shooter sort of experimental games. You've got your racing games. You've got your rhythm games. Like, the list goes on. And it's not so tunneled and sort of like directed into one area and authenticated through Sony. It's like, so Steam just goes, yep, all right, then put it on Steam.
That's a great perspective, Joe, because I don't have the PC, like, marketplace understanding you do. So I didn't know, like, I knew that VR was best on PC and that's where it thrived the most, but I didn't realize it was, all these games flooding in and, like, modability and stuff like that was really,
it's big time, dude,
making it stand out. So yeah, I mean, that the fact that that already limits the PlayStation VR immediately by just being on a console, but then you add in the price of it and the lack of support from Sony, and it's just a shame. And what's unfortunate about it is like, you can pretty much get me to buy almost anything if I feel that I'm getting a deal on it.
Yeah.
Like the PlayStation Portal, I wasn't sold that the PlayStation Portal was this amazing device, but it came out at $199.99.
Yeah.
And if I get it for $200, I already have everything at home. I can play this, free of my console to an extent. We bought a Portal, and it was like it was easy for me to do that at that price.
Cool.
The PlayStation VR 2 being $500, for me to go, oh, they've reduced the price and now it's impulse buy, it needs to come down to like $150 for me to impulse buy it. And there is no way they can reduce the price from $500 to $150. No. This isn't like PSV, like if they came out tomorrow and PSVR 2 was marked down to $299.99, it does nothing to increase my interest in buying one.
Yeah. And
they've just shaved off $200 and probably lost a ton of money on it.
Yeah.
So there's just no way for them to sell this to me, because they essentially have to just give away everything. I mean, $150 would be like, I don't even know, the controllers might be worth that without the actual device.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Hi there, thank you so much for sticking with us up until this point in the episode, whether via audio or video. We greatly appreciate it. Now, if you're new here, make sure you join the Sacred Icon Discord. We'd love to have you there, talk all things pop culture, or just talk about general life stuff. Make sure you join. We're always listening. We're always open to that stuff. And I'd also be remiss to not mention the Sacred Icon podcast. That's obviously available on Spotify, Apple, Google, etc., etc. That is hosted by Brian and Josh. They have an amazing chemistry that is irreplaceable, and it can never be emulated. They talk all things from movies, to video games. It's a great time. And yeah. Definitely go check that out. All those links for the Discord and the Spotify's and everything are down below, / on screen now if you're watching. But anyways, back to the episode.
We got one last article we'll touch on here. I kind of have I have some history with this studio, and maybe you do as well. And then, of course, it ties into our like Suicide Squad conversations we've been having. But we'll make this one quick. Gotham Knight Studio supporting Wonder Woman game. Gotham Knight Studio WB Games Montreal is supporting development on the forthcoming Wonder Woman game. Led by Monolith Productions, which created Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor and its follow-up Shadow of War, it will similarly use the Nemesis system mechanic. So a couple things to say here. Where do I begin? WB Games Montreal, their first game was Batman Arkham Origins. And despite criticisms that game receives, I thought that game was amazing, one of the best Arkham games. I think you agree, right, Joe?
I think it's severely underrated.
Yeah, Arkham Origins is great. So WB Games Montreal did awesome there. They didn't make a game for many years, and then eventually they released Gotham Knights, which wasn't the worst thing ever. I'm not going to sit here and say it was a bad game, but it was kind of just like the industry kind of read it as like mid. You know, some bought it, a lot didn't. It passed us by, it got sales, and it's just kind of, it is what it is. Probably looked at better upon than Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League, but not a lot better.
Yep.
So WB Games Montreal, I'm kind of not sure where I stand with them. They created one game I love 10 years ago that a lot of people criticize, and then they created Gotham Knights, which I don't care for. Then you have Monolith Productions, which I've had a love-hate relationship with because I'm really impressed by what they did with like Condemned in the early 360 days.
Yeah, really good game.
And then when Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor was coming out, I was so hyped. I got that game. I played it. Had a lot of fun. Had issues with it, but I thought it was pretty good.
Yep.
Over the years, I've soured on Shadow of Mordor. I didn't like the follow-up Shadow of War really at all. So they're kind of more of a loss on me as far as my interest in Monolith. But I can tell that they're a pretty successful studio. To me, they seem like bottom of AAA to me. Like they're a AAA studio, but they're not on the level of most, even close to most of their peers. But they're making a Wonder Woman game, and it's using the Nemesis system mechanic from Shadow of War, which is the best part of that game. So I don't know. I guess where I'm at with this conversation, why I pulled up this article, and I'll pass it over to you, is kind of just, how do we think this Wonder Woman game is going to turn out? I have several concerns. One is just Monolith. Like I said, they're good, but they're not. I'd say they're really good, but they're not great or amazing or excellent. They're just really good. And then WB Games Montreal is, I mean, if I'm trying to be critical, taking away my feelings for Arkham Origins, they're kind of just a mid studio. Right? So you have a mid studio joining up with the Shadow of Mordor guys to make a Wonder Woman game. And I'm not sure how much people are clamoring for a Wonder Woman game. And I also think this is going to tie into Suicide Squad, which is done poorly. So I'm leaning towards not getting good vibes from this Wonder Woman game. That's not what I want out of it. I hope it'd be great. What do you think, Joe? What vibes are you getting here?
Do you want me to be like really raw with it?
Be brutal, dude.
Like,
I was trying to softball on it a bit, so why don't you play hardball?
I don't give a fucking shit about this game, dude. Like,
I don't either.
Who cares? Like, you can't like honeypot me with a Nemesis system that's a mechanic. That's like saying like, I don't know, like Final Fantasy VII. Like when the remake was coming out, it's like, oh, the hybrid combat system. It's like, yeah, that doesn't matter. Like, whatever, you know, say Metal Gear remake is advertised. Oh, you fucking, I don't know, you get to use the darkness like Splinter Cell and it's got a gradient system. Who cares? Like, you've got to come with more than that. And I know this is like is it a leak or is it actually news?
According to a job description spotted by Tech4 Gamers, WB Games Montreal is seeking an external development artist with Band-Aid.
Like you said, it's a mid studio that isn't most likely the same people that made, you know, Arkham Origins back in the day, because you know, people leave naturally, you know, people get new jobs, combined with a studio that, in my opinion, I liked in the Middle-earth games, but I never like adored them where they were even close to my top 50.
What do you think of, and I started to interrupt you, but I feel like I need to get this, bring this nugget of this thing up.
Go for it.
The Nemesis system was trademarked immediately by WB so that no one else in the industry could use it. And they're flashing their Nemesis flag here for this game. And tell me if I'm off here. And I know, and I if Josh listens to this episode, I apologize, Josh, because I'm not trying to shit on a game you love. But my opinion of the Shadow games, Mordor and War, is that if you rip the Nemesis system out of them, they're some of the most bland, uninspired AAA games ever in existence. They literally live and die by the Nemesis system. So to me, it feels like those games really just were saved by this Nemesis system. They went and trademarked it, and now they're going to put it in the Wonder Woman game. I'm also trying to picture how that works in a Wonder Woman game where it's really exciting to me, because this isn't like slaying orcs in Mordor. This would be taking down criminals. I mean, I just, this whole project to me reeks of like, at best, 7 out of 10. It was okay.
It reeks of, we have this Nemesis thing that we've trademarked and we have no idea how to use it, and we're on the kick of making Suicide Squad, and we've doubled down on Suicide Squad being a successful project, so we'll make a Wonder Woman game, and also like, let's go. Like, no, it's stupid. Like, it reeks of like lack of character, and like you said, the idea of Wonder Woman having a Nemesis system is very strange, because normally in these DC stuff, you have very clear-cut, defined villains. It's not like orcs, like you said, from Middle-earth, where there's a bunch of hodgepodge random crap that's constant, because it's an army, right? Like, it's an army. Unless, like you said, they're just like thugs that just happen to be juiced up. But then again, that's going to be boring.
Wonder Woman runs into a bank, and then like a robber that you've fought before is like, Wonder Woman, eh? I'm going to take all your gold again. This bruise you put in my eye hasn't healed in days.
Yeah.
That's not fun. That's stupid.
Yeah, it's gonna be weird. I don't like it. I just think like you said, I agree though, like the Middle-earth stuff never grabbed me like all the while. I think it completely 100% rests on that one mechanic all the way through the game. Like it's an okay game if you take the Nemesis thing out of it, I would say. But it's the whole character is that everyone that speaks about Middle-earth is that like the Shadow of Mordor games is that it's like, oh well, you know, I had this orc do this. That was the water cooler of that game. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, and that's the RNG of it. But yeah, I just don't hold your breath for this, guys. Like I wouldn't.
Yeah, WB is not trending in the right direction with their games. That's for sure. So, but we hope the best. I mean, if it was a 9. If it was an amazing 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10 Wonder Woman game, I'll pick it up. I'll play it, you know? Like, and maybe they'll prove me wrong and the Nemesis system will work in a way I had never imagined. But I think the combination of Support Studio and Games Montreal and what's happening with Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman and Nemesis system, just bad vibes altogether. I mean, but
why are we making a Wonder Woman game? I got to be honest. Where's Superman? You know what I'm saying? Like,
true. And also, like, the zeitgeist for Wonder Woman was years ago.
Yeah, in that one film.
Like, the one film. Yeah, you should have done this before 84 came out.
Yeah. 1984
came out.
No one wants Wonder Woman now.
Yeah, that's when it would have
inadvertently took advantage of a dude. It's like,
yes, sexually.
Not exactly. Yeah, she's not exactly a role model anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But that's it for today, guys. 3 news stories. Pretty PlayStation heavy here today. Let us know if you're excited for the PS5 Pro. If you are sad for the downfall of VR2, did you see this coming? Is there something we missed? And do you have much hope for the Wonder Woman game? I mean,
trash.
We hope it's good, but it's just not trending the direction we like. So, Joe, any final thoughts from you?
No. This has been a great episode. I mean, it's again short, succinct, strong PlayStation news. You know, I love my blue. So yeah,
Sony ponies unite.
So stand up.
Woo! Yeah. But all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Sacred Games Daily. Come check us out, like us, give us a high rating on iTunes or Spotify or whatever you use. If you want to leave us an email, that stuff is in there. A voice clip, it's in our on the app itself. You can see. Go check out our main show, Sacred Icon. A lot of good stuff there, guys. We just love your support. Keep listening. Help us get more traction here.
We love you.
We want a lot more people to hear this stuff. So thank you guys so much. And as always, keep it sacred daily.
Peace.